This was really interesting for me to discover that the founding fathers, um, were not necessarily, they associated with being Christian, but they weren't necessarily living out a Christian faith or a Christian, worldview. There was a lot of talk about God, but they weren't necessarily following him. Um, so, yeah, this topic definitely kind of changed the way I think when I hear people talk about how America was founded as a Christian nation. I always thought, yeah, like, the Europeans brought their religion with them, and I guess I didn't really ever search it out or try to understand. Um, but yeah, so this was really interesting to kind of realize that they were not less necessarily living out a faith that they proclaimed. So I think in terms of slavery and how the founding fathers interacted with slavery, one of the really interesting things was that Thomas Jefferson, really advocated for not having slaves, and for freedom, that, each person is created with inherent dignity and value, yet he owned slaves. That's just really kind of an oxymoron. And I think that trend kind of has lingered and still is here in America today. Even in the church and amongst Christians, we talk about things that we think are valuable and that we know are good, but we have trouble executing them and living them out. And so yes, I think America still does have trouble being consistent with its own stated ideals, and I think that is simply just because we're fallen. We have a sin nature, and we desire our own, our own good, and to pursue our own things, and to do what's satisfying and pleasing for us. And if something's not gonna, push us towards that, we resist against it, even if it's subconsciously. So yeah, I think that's really why, and that's, our sin nature is foundational to all of these problems, really. And the answer, this is simplifying everything very much, but the answer is, Jesus, and for people to know the truth of the gospel and to be transformed by him. And only until that happens, only, when God redeems all things, are we going to see these moral and spiritual truths being perfectly lived out. So I look forward to that day. But until then, I think the church needs to continue just working towards, glorifying God and yeah, just living out these things that we claim to believe.